So, when you're talking about data and research, what do you think really works for regional films, like Telugu films doing really well in the north?
Yeah.
Is that also part of some kind of analysis? Is there a formula, or is that something that just is a phenomenon? It's such a great story. It's anyway going to appeal to anybody because initially, at least when Telugu films became a hit, people, I don't think even people living elsewhere in India knew the actor that well, although they were superstars where they were.
But you know the reason why they work, right? The reason why they work is because their stories are culturally rooted. Uh, the people who make that cinema think in that language. They speak that
Right.
language. They live that language. They wear that language, right? So that kind of narrative comes when it's absolutely, uh, you know, grounded in that kind of a reality. And that is something that is universal, which I spoke about, emotional universality. Those emotions that they basically talk about, whether it's a revenge, whether it is a love for the mother, for a child, whether it is a father son relationship, those stories are absolutely rooted and therefore have a connect that is very universal. Uh, that kind of storytelling. You see is working whether it is a film like RRR, whether it is a film like KGF, whether it is a film like Bahubali, or whether it is any of these films that break the box. Pushpa, for example, these are stories that are based on human insight, and that human insight travels where it doesn't matter. It travels beyond geography. In Hindi, what's happened, unfortunately, and very interesting anecdote I heard once that somebody asked Rajamouli sir that why do you work with writers largely that are from Hyderabad or from the South markets? Why not somebody from the Hindi speaking markets? And he said that I'd like to work with writers who are rooted, you know, and that is, I think, very, very important. It kind of talks about storytelling and a narrative uh, that that uh, that big directors are actually looking for stories that have this kind of son of soil kind of feel. Also, we need to realize that when we are making content, there are two kinds of there is an India and then there is a Bharat, and we have to realize that there is a huge amount of um, movie consumption that happens from the audience that comes from Bharat. But unfortunately, we have not been making content for the audience that is Bharat. And which is why I think we need, as content creators, to kind of go back into our creative shells and try and rethink our strategy as to what kind of content that will work in Bharat, what kind of sensibility do we need to talk about, and how do we actually get these people who are in tier 2 tier 3, because see they a tier 2 tier 3 audience, movie going is one of their biggest outings, right? Going to a cinema, going out for dinner perhaps are the two only outings that largely that tier 2 tier 3 cities have, whereas in tier 1 cities audiences are actually spoiled for choice, and therefore the content that if we are going to be creating for the tier 1 audiences, they have a choice of watching it that weekend or watching it on OTT and doing something else on that weekend. So these tier 1 audiences are not, they're not loyal audiences, but the tier 2 tier 3 audiences are extremely loyal. And I think if we have to grow cinema, we have to ensure that we create content for audiences which is Bharat, and we have to have uh, theaters. We are a very underscreened country, and therefore the opportunity to see has to be increased at the right price. And that's when you see this whole change in consumption of movies in cinema, because it will become affordable, and then we're telling them stories that are relatable.